Well, guys, I'm sorry to say that today I'm not going to be your huckleberry. Let's talk about Tombstone. Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken, and I'm here today. As you guys know, it's Western month on the Mid-Level Media channel. I am going back and watching some classic Westerns for the first time. I'm also watching some new Westerns as well, and I'm doing some reviews on them, some standalone reviews. I thought that Tombstone would be one that you guys would definitely want to hear my thoughts on and want to hear me discuss, because it is one of the more popular Westerns of all time. It definitely was one of the more popular movies in the 90s. I hear this one brought up all the time. It's just one of the greatest Westerns that's ever been made. So I definitely want to do a standalone video and talk about this movie. So this is going to be kind of not really a Blu-ray review, although I did watch it on Blu-ray, but more of a straight movie review, just talking about the film and just talking about this Blu-ray. This came out in 2010, and I think this is the only Blu-ray edition that this movie has, which is crazy. It's such a popular film that you would think that there would be, I'm sure there's some custom steel books and stuff like that, maybe some foreign releases of the movie, but this is the only mainstream Blu-ray release of this film. Happened 12 years ago. So it's crazy that this is the only version of this out on Blu-ray. You would think, you know, it would just have all different kinds of editions and anniversary editions and stuff like that. It's such a popular film. So we are potentially getting the 4K from Disney in 2023, which would make sense, 30th anniversary. So I did cover that in the Physical Media Report this week. But yeah, as far as this Blu-ray, guys, it was a really good transfer. You know, a 2010 release, you know, some good facial detail. The scenery looked good. This movie's definitely well shot. It looks incredible. It's beautiful, just how they did the Western setting in the town of Tombstone in this movie. So it's a beautiful movie, and it looked really good on Blu-ray. I imagine it's going to look even better on 4K when it comes out, so I can't wait for that. But yeah, this is going to be just a very honest review, guys. I'm going to be honest with you guys because you deserve that. You don't deserve me to get on here and sugarcoat something. And I'm not trying to say I didn't like this movie. I did enjoy this movie. I thought it was a very easy watch. 2 hours and 10 minutes, you know, I didn't get on my phone or nothing. I was engaged the entire time. It's a good movie. It's a good movie, but it's funny to me because when I said I hadn't watched Tombstone, I think on my Physical Media Report, I got a comment that said, oh, you think Titanic is one of the greatest movies of all time, but you haven't seen Tombstone? And that was funny to me because I couldn't get Titanic out of my head when I was watching this movie. They both feel very similar, just in tone and nature, just how traditional and how 90s both of those movies kind of feel. Great visuals, but the performances are kind of a little all over the place, a little over the top, a little hammy at times. And this movie also both featured two actors from Titanic, maybe more that I'm missing, but Billy Zane's in this movie and Bill Paxton's in this movie, and they're both in Titanic. So I can draw some like direct similarities and comparisons to Tombstone to Titanic, and both only 4 years apart. So they both feel like the same kind of movie. So I thought that was kind of funny that somebody was criticizing me for not watching Tombstone and then saying that, you know, I like Titanic, so I should, for some reason, my opinion on movies should be discounted. I don't know. Let's get on to Tombstone. Let's talk about this movie, guys. This is a little disappointing for me, and this movie was hyped to the moon for sure. A lot of people were recommending it, saying this is one of the best Westerns. I have to watch it. It's a must-watch movie, guys. And again, before you all come at me in the comments, which you're welcome to do, I really tried to give this movie a fair shot. I was struggling, not struggling, but I was trying to just pick out things that I liked about it throughout, and I was really trying to ignore some of the things that I didn't like about it. Which, to be honest, like, that's not how you should do things when you're watching a movie, but I really wanted to like this movie. I wanted to like it so much. I don't want to disappoint anybody on here by saying I don't like it, but again, I gotta be honest, and this is like one of the first movies in a while that I can remember watching that when I got done with it and I was trying to formulate my thoughts and opinions, I actually felt bad for not loving it as much as everybody else, and I was like, what was I missing there? But getting into this movie again, I don't have a lot of notes or anything. This is just going to be straight, honest opinion, thoughts on this movie. So right off the top, let me talk about some positives. Val Kilmer in this movie kills it. He is so good as Doc Holliday. I love his performance in this movie. He's got tuberculosis in this film, so you know he's sweating a lot, and you can just see the pain and suffering on his face. But at the same time, he's super confident, super badass. He's like, you know, kicking everybody's ass in the gunfights and everything. He's the guy that really ends this in the end, I think. And that moment where he walks up and says, "I'll be your Huckleberry," is iconic. I know I've heard that line from everywhere, and watching it actually happen, it absolutely lived that moment lived up to the hype for me. So Val Kilmer in this movie is my one main positive from this film, is like, he was excellent. Like, he elevated this movie so much for me. And everybody else in this movie is good, but he's so like head and shoulders above everybody else with his performance that he really just overshadows everybody, and just, I don't want to say makes them look bad, but definitely makes them feel inferior to him throughout. I like Sam Elliott a lot in this movie, but it took a while for me to really like him and his character. It took a while for him to kind of kick into gear. And when he does, it kind of feels a little bit out of nowhere. Like, he feels like he's just kind of sitting on the sidelines throughout the film, just kind of doing whatever his brother Wyatt Earp tells him to do. And all of a sudden, he just kind of out of nowhere wants to be the sheriff of this town, which kind of felt a little wonky and weird to me. But once he does that, I really liked this character. I liked how he was kind of like trying to take charge and help this town and protect them from the cowboy gang and all that stuff. Bill Paxton's Bill Paxton. I'm going to love Bill Paxton, everything he does. I just love Bill Paxton. Doesn't matter what kind of performance he's given, goofy, over the top, whatever. It's weird science, Aliens, Terminator, or, you know, Twister, Titanic, like Frailty, which I think is his best performance. But I just love Bill Paxton. So he's, you know, a little goofy in this movie. He's the brother. The scene where I don't know if should I spoil this movie? Should I put on spoiler alerts? But the scene where he dies kind of played a little weird for me, because first off, like, Samuel Elliott just got shot in the arm. They know there's bandits in town just kind of shooting people out of nowhere. It's still night, but then he goes off and plays pool, and just the whole scene, like, it's a very 90s thing for them to like slow stuff down and just make it super dramatic as far as like the film and the frame rate or whatever. They slow it down. So the scene where he dies is just very goofy, I think. And I think that Bill Paxton definitely kind of oversells it a little bit. But anyway, Bill Paxton, I love him. So he's fun to watch regardless. Kurt Russell. Let's talk about Kurt Russell in this movie. I love almost every Kurt Russell performance. I love every movie that Kurt Russell is in. There's not a lot of Kurt Russell performances that I don't like. I'm sorry to say that this is one of them. I don't really think that Kurt Russell is all that good in this film. I don't like the character of Wyatt Earp at all. I've heard from multiple sources that Kevin Costner does a better Wyatt Earp in that movie, Wyatt Earp, but I don't know if the character's the same in every movie, but I found him to be pretty dishonorable, pretty despicable in nature, and that's not what I want out of my hero. Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven is definitely a despicable character. He's done some bad things in his life, but when he turns things around, there's definitely that hero within him. He definitely has an honor and dignity to him. I didn't feel that with Kurt Russell this whole movie. You know, he's got a wife who's obviously like got addiction problems. She's an alcoholic. He's leaving her all the time to like ride horses with this girl in like a flower field. And like that whole scene just was way over the top. That's what I'm talking about with the Titanic comparisons. You know, he's fallen in love with another girl while his wife's struggling with addiction. That's not what a good person would, that's not what a good husband would do. Like, he would have, if he wanted to be rid of his wife, he needs to have an honest conversation with her, get her set up, send her back to the city, get her help. She obviously needed help. She was an alcoholic. She was drinking all the time. So I don't like the way that was just kind of played off and swept under the rug. She keeps seeing him with her, looking at her, and she gets upset and walks away. Like, it's really kind of sad what Kurt Russell did to his wife in this movie. I don't like it. So, and then there's the fact that the whole like beginning of the movie, the whole motivation behind moving to Tombstone was to give up his life as a lawman and just kind of take it easy and make money off of people in Tombstone. So that whole thing and idea is just, I don't know. I just couldn't get behind it. I couldn't get behind it. And, you know, you had Sam Elliott trying to convince him, you know, to help him. And Kurt Russell didn't want any part of it. Of course, he's doing things to help along the way, but it all seems to serve his best interest. So he just seems very arrogant, very self-serving in this movie. And that's not what I want in a hero. Like Val Kilmer is kind of all about himself too, but he lets that all in the open. Like you understand that to his character, while Kurt Russell is trying to ride that line. He's trying to be the good guy, but he's also, every other action that he's doing just kind of makes you feel a certain way about him. And I don't know, it just rubbed me the wrong way. The movie wants him to be the hero, but they don't, his actions in the film don't necessarily scream heroic to me, if that makes any sense. So Kurt Russell, I didn't really like the character, and to be honest, I thought the performance was pretty weak with that one too. Getting into some other negatives, guys. Again, I like this movie. I'll tell you right now, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I think it's a good movie. It's a very traditional movie. Like I said, drawing the Titanic comparisons, it's a period piece setting. All that stuff they pull off so well. So it's a very traditional movie. It feels very 90s. It feels very much of its era. So there's not really a whole lot of grittiness to it. It's very just kind of classic shootouts and stuff like that. Like I said, the directing is just very basic, very traditional. It's good, solid, but it doesn't stand the test of time like a movie like Unforgiven. Like that direction was just, I don't know, just timeless. I think it was so good. But anyway, George P. Cosmatos did a good job, he's the father of the guy that directed Mandy, which I just discovered when I was doing a little bit of research before getting on here. But anyway, it's a well-directed movie. Like I said, very traditional, which some people could view as a negative, some people could view it as a positive. It just depends on like your interpretation and stuff. There's a lot of 80s movies that I like that feel very 80s, and I like them just because I like that setting and that time period. 90s movies don't always work with their 90s tones. Like the 80s movies, the 90s movies, they have a very distinct style and tone to them. 80s works for me for some reason, but sometimes in the 90s, that style doesn't necessarily work for me. And this has a very 90s style to it. But the villains in this movie, I thought were very weak villains, which, you know, kind of leads to a lack of drama and just overall stakes of this film. Like I never felt the main characters being threatened. I never felt that they were in any real danger, even though there are moments of danger in this movie. There are things that happen in this film, but I just kind of felt like they were a bunch of goofs, almost cartoonish in nature throughout the movie. So I never felt the stakes. I never felt the drama. I never felt scared every time our main characters encountered them, because I always just felt like Kurt Russell just got the upper hand on him. Even though there was like hundreds of them surrounding Kurt Russell, for some reason they were all scared of him. Like they could have just rushed him and shot him like when he was out there in that street, but they didn't. So yeah, they tried to create ways for Kurt Russell to overcome them and come out on top, and I just thought it was a little silly how they portrayed them. So Michael Biehn, he plays Ringo in this film. He's good for like the first part, but then the second part, he kind of, I don't know, these villains are just, sometimes they feel threatening, and the next scene they'll just be like super over the top and goofy. So I just didn't like the villains. I didn't like the cowboys. They set them up pretty good in the very beginning, but then like from the play show on, where they're shooting at Billy Zane and the people up there, it just goes off a cliff for me. So I did not like the villains in this film. And if you don't have a good villain in your story, especially like in a Western like this, and it takes all the drama and the stakes out of it. So that's another thing I'll say. Trying to think of some other things. Again, I like this movie. I enjoyed this movie, but again, I'm struggling to figure out and put my finger on just why this is held up as the classic that it is, and why so many people love this movie. And I think it's just a maybe you had to be there kind of thing. Like a Titanic. Like Titanic's not the strong. I love Titanic, but I watched it when it first came out. It's not the strongest acting-wise, character-wise. You know, there are good characters in it, but there's a lot of 90s, you know, cheesy things in Titanic as well, you know, things that don't necessarily age the best. Like, I don't think Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet give their best performances of their entire career in that movie. I think it's a little over-dramatized at points in that film as well. So again, it's a traditional movie. It's a 90s movie. I liked the movie, but I didn't love the movie. So there you guys go. That's my thoughts on Tombstone, guys. Again, I feel horrible. I really do. I feel bad about this. I know there's people that's going to come at me down below, and by all means do it. I would ask to do it in a somewhat respectful way, but if you want to come at me and, you know, you're angry that I don't like the movie, again, that doesn't take anything away from your enjoyment. If you love Tombstone, you love Tombstone. I'm not trying to take anything away from you. I just have to be honest. I'm always going to be honest. So this movie to me is a 3.5 out of 5 at best. I was hoping I was going to love this movie. I was hoping it was going to be of that Unforgiven level, that epic scale. it just didn't quite land for me. So Tombstone, guys, that is your review. Again, I watched this on Blu-ray. This Blu-ray looks good. I recommend picking it up. I think you can still find it at Best Buy for like $7. But again, the 4K should be coming out next year in 2023. I'll be excited to pick that up, rewatch it again. Maybe I'll like it a little bit better when I review the 4K in a year. Who knows? Maybe my opinion will change. But that is my thoughts of Tombstone as of today. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know in the comments below. What's your thoughts on Tombstone? What are your thoughts on my thoughts on Tombstone? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, like this video, guys. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Don't unsubscribe just because I don't like Tombstone. Don't do that. But subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and turn on those bell notifications so you can be notified every single time a new mid-level media video drops. And I'll see you next time.